What's up guys, YST here and welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today we are joined by the legend himself in Saf from HH Gaming. How's it going, bro?
Not too bad, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
It's actually your first time on the channel, and just as an icebreaker kind of question, what is your favorite champion in Raid?
Oh, my favorite champion in Raid.
Putting you on the spot here.
God, I mean, there's like 700 champions in the game now. It's like really hard to kind of like pick off the top of my head. I suppose if I was to say like what's the one champion I've had the most fun with more than anything else in the game is probably a champion like Ruella.
Okay, that's really
not Ruella, sorry, not Ruella. Whisper.
Whisper. There we go.
Messed that up then. Whisper. Ruella's been on my mind lately because of all the new champions. Whisper was just a cool champion, kind of like a boss killer. Not really anything like, it wasn't a legend, it wasn't flashy, but just like so cool to watch you just go again. And you always had like that RNG fun. Is she going to get an extra turn? And how many more turns is she going to do? That's
interesting. I've actually never heard someone say Whisper is their favorite champion, but there we go.
I know. Hell Hades winds me up all the time. Whenever he pulls a Whisper, he says, I'll be happy in the chat on a shard pull.
But all right, guys, what we are going to do today is do our underrated champions for the clan boss. And hopefully there's some picks in here that you may not have expected. And I'm actually interested to see Saf's picks as well. And we will be leaving the HH Gaming YouTube channel below for you guys to all drop a subscription because he makes amazing content over there. And he's one of the biggest brains in the community. So you are the guest on the channel. Would you like to start off with your first underrated champion?
Absolutely. Now, everyone loves a bit of clan boss. So This is why we wanted to do this type of video, right? Everyone loves clan boss. There's loads of different options. It's the fun area. My number one first champion that probably won't surprise many people if they are really deep into clan boss is Marked. It's a rare champion that,
I don't even know the faction.
Accessible. It is. I think she's, what is she, Sacred Order? Or I think she's Sacred Order, right? No, she's a barbarian, isn't she?
Barbarian.
She's a barbarian. Yes, a barbarian. Rare barbarian.
There we go.
Marked. Kind of a champion you'd want to look at if you were sort of early mid game, right? Because she has this kind of really cool A3, which is a sort of a single target block debuffs, but then you get the sort of a big increased defense. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. And as everyone knows, if you're kind of like early in the game, you don't really have the unkillable champions. Increased defense is kind of your lifeblood. But the fact that you get a 1-turn block debuffs as well with it is a little bit awkward to work with, but actually is a really solid champion. So that's my first underrated pick, Marked. I think if you're kind of early game, you're struggling in clan boss, what a great champion to have.
That's actually a really strong A3. I've never actually seen this.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of maybe a Grizzled Dial in that kind of era there.
Yes.
So really strong there. And even the A1 is the smaller chance of drop defense, but if you don't have other options, I think this is a great pick for sure.
Yeah, and she does, like, that A1 does book up quite high. I know she takes a bit of books, but rare champions, you do end up getting rare books eventually. But that A1 will go up to about 70, 80%. I think she has like a decreased accuracy on the A2, which is okay, but it's nothing like special. You're really there for that A3. That's what you really want to have. And you can use it kind of like as a kind of an A2 to protect the decreased speed, or you can have it for the stun debuff, or you can have it on the first AoE so you get that increased defense going out across the two as well. So really very flexible usage for that skill in early game clan boss.
Yeah, I just think she needs to find a wardrobe because she looks a bit chilly.
All the barbarians do, considering, I know the barbarian lands must be really warm, put it like that.
All right, so keeping on the theme of rare champions, there's actually one I want to give a shout out to, and that's going to be Bog Walker from the Lizardman. And what makes this guy so unique is his A1 ability actually has the big version of the decrease attack. And
wow,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one of the only rares that has this on an A1 with the big version, because other champions that I've been seeing, it's always been the 25% decrease attack. So
you are right, I think. I know there are some epics that have it obviously on the A1, like Tyrell's the obvious one, Lodric, there were a couple of others. But yeah, rare-wise, there is not many with the 50% one.
Yeah. So
and it's quite a high chance. What's that, 50% for a 2-turn?
Yeah, 50-50 shot at a 2-turn duration. And I think for progression, and even if you've got them at a rank 50, you're trying to get to your Brutal, your Nightmare for the first time, you might be somebody that might be able to fill that role for you if you don't have another option. I think that's great. And even on the A2, he has the small version of an increased defense as well on a 3-turn cooldown. So in terms of utility, he's got two of the most crucial things that you're looking for in the clan boss. And he's not even like super, I'd say his base stats are okay. I'd say the base speed is terrible at 93. We'll just move Saf out of the way. Boom. So
93 is actually not too bad for rares. It's when you start getting to the 90s, on the lower end for sure, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. He does love a book though, doesn't he? On that
yes,
A2, loves a book.
yeah, look at that man.
Loves a
Like
book there. How many
Plarium,
is that?
it was
Wow.
so was that 7, 8 books?
He's like a classic, what I call a 2019 champion, right? He's got dual stat damage basis. The cooldown is randomly in the middle for some reason on the books that makes no sense. He's
Yeah,
also a reflect buff, which we totally forgot about until we released Snick Track. So, but yeah, the A1 alone, I mean, you could literally forget about the rest of the kit. Again, same thing with Marked, right? If you're in the early game, decrease attack, increase defense, it's your lifeblood.
yeah.
Really cool champion.
He was actually the key for me to finishing the faction wars for the first ever time. Like having that consistent
Yes.
decrease attack was huge because I believe back then there wasn't a lot of. Maybe there was. I'm not too sure, but I don't think there was too many decrease attack champions. I didn't have a Jarek for a long time, but yeah, he was really solid.
It's a bit like the which other faction was it that had the problem? It was the Skinwalkers. Everyone used to have the Black Bears
Yeah.
because it was the AoE decrease attack. He was useless in everything else in the game, but for that one area, that bear was like brilliant for 21 3-starring. He was essential. You almost needed him because the Skinwalker faction before we had some of the newer champions that coming in, like Leo, and if you didn't get Coronat, forget it was like awful. I think I did it in like 25 minutes the first time. It's horrendous.
For God's sake. That's
So
nuts.
next up for me, my favorite, well, one of my second favorite epic for damage. We're going to move away from early game. We're now going to talk about unkillable, the hardest hitting overall damage dealing epic champion in the game, Alika.
Okay.
She is a barbarian. She is one of the librarians, as I like to call them, because she needs a book and a half and a library and the rest of it. Her library card is well overdue. Alika, she has literally, if you look at the overall kit, she has the hardest hitting overall damage if you think about cooldowns. She has an A1 that has a chance, I think, on a 50% to double hit.
Okay.
And the other hit's always critical. Kind of forget about that because, you need the first hit to be critical. So it's a bit weird. The A2 is actually a really hard hitting ability. It's a 50% ignore defense on it. And it really does smack. Although if you double hit on the A1, it's kind of better to have the A1 in Clan Boss. So you could literally just run A1 on her in Clan Boss and she'll prop about 45, 50 million. I think in my team, at the most I've ever had her hit is about 52 million so far. And she's only like 1-star ascended. When I get her to 6-star, we could talk like 60, 65 million. She is insanely hard hitting. She does have a partnership with Saphyrra. I've never been able to make it work.
Which one's Saphyrra?
To be
So
honest.
this chick here.
Yeah. They kind of like revive each other.
Okay.
I've never been able to make it work. The A3 is kind of cool as well. It's like a mini basher skill. It's kind of handy in some secret rooms. And obviously for faction wars. But yeah, I would say the hardest hitting epic champion for Clan Boss in an unkillable setting is Alika.
That's
Nobody can
crazy.
compete.
I've actually never thought about using Alika in Clan Boss. This is why we wanted to get Saf on because he's got them juicy picks for us. But that's wicked, man. I need to look out for that one. If she's hitting those numbers, so what kind of team would you kind of recommend in her? So a Demifa team or a Man-Eater team?
So she probably can't really fit into many Man-Eater teams because most Man-Eater teams are talking Bat-Eater, you're talking different things, and you end up kind of narrowing your pool for debuffs.
Mhm.
So you kind of need someone else because she doesn't bring any sort of decreased defense, weaken. She's not bringing anything to make the team do more damage. She's there literally as a raw A1 or A2 if you want to enable it. Raw damage dealer. The thing about the A2 as well is a 2-turn cooldown. Actually, when we're talking about secret rooms, high defense, she ignores 50%, 50%?
Yeah.
You put a lethal gear on her, you can get it with a cruel gear up to about 80%. She's a bit like that Baron A3. She picks a target, she's going to kill it every 2 turns. So it is quite a strong ability to sort of bring into the higher end content. It doesn't really match so well in Clan Boss because the A1 kind of hits so hard. Like my A1 on my Alika, she does 260,000 per hit per A1. So like 500,000. Then you put War Master on top. Then you put Phantom Touch on top. It's like a 900,000 A1.
That is nuts.
It's insane. It's really fun. And it's fun to watch her just basically go absolutely ham and destroy the Clan Boss with it. Put her in a revenge gear, you can get more A1s.
That's crazy. Actually, have you got a video of that on your channel?
Yes, I think there is. I think there is a video. I think she's called the librarian video, Unleash the Library, because of the book I think she needs like 23 books or something.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, guys,
She is
I'll
like a
leave that.
legend.
I'll leave that video in the description so we can all check it out together because I've not seen that one yet. All right, so next up for me in terms of underrated champions is going to be none other than Rearguard Sergeant. Now, I don't know about you, but I never see anybody rocking Rearguard Sergeant in the clan boss anymore. And I don't know why. Like,
she's an OG. She is a 2019 OG. She was actually, before we had like a big splurge of dwarves in faction wars, before we had like the Brognies come out, before we had all these like Melgas, it kind of needed a rearguard just to get through the dwarf faction. The dwarf faction was awful back in the day.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like auto run. You basically put your trenders in or your dwarves, whatever you've got. But she's actually insane. You're right. You don't see her in clan boss. She is kind of leaning towards the traditional early mid game, but she has everything you need to make a clan boss team run. I think she's got decreased attack. She's got some healing. She's got ally protection.
Yeah, so drop defense.
You're always looking for that 3-turn cooldown, aren't you, for ally protection?
Yeah, I think that drop defense on the A1 is crazy. And when you compare it with like ally protection, like you're saying, on that 3-turn cooldown with the continuous heal, like, because it's all allies, not just herself, that's even better. And the decreased attack, it's on a 3-turn cooldown, which isn't great. But when you pair it with other champions that have similar things where they're struggling to get decreased attack out, you can kind of pair them together and then you're able to keep it up. So yes, it's just nice.
Still solid.
Yeah, it's nice as a safety feature, I'd say. Like, if you get that 3% resisted, then you got someone as a backup. But she brings like literally 3 crucial things to the clan boss, and ally protection is the most valuable damage mitigation for clan boss, period. Followed by something like a strengthen. But yeah. Really
probably followed by faultless defense blessing now.
Oh, there we go. I don't even know what that does. Enlighten us.
In Affinity Clan Boss, because what people don't realize in Infinity Clan Boss, you actually get hit 4 times on the A2 instead of once. When you're in Void, you get hit once and once. When you're in Affinity Clan Boss, you get hit 4 times. Faultless Defense is the blessing that reduces damage for like multi-hits.
Okay.
So you end up actually reducing like the Clan Boss's damage by around about 46% when you have Faultless Defense fully stacked out.
Damn.
So this is why you'll see Mullet Reaver, shout out to him for his Infinity Clan Boss stuff, and I think also Victor Tez and the ones that really push the kind of like the Infinity Clan Boss world record. They've put Corpulent Cadaver in Faultless Defense because they can reduce the amount of shield loss by quite a significant margin on Affinity Clan Boss. So it actually means that they can hit harder because obviously the more shield, the more damage you deal.
That's actually crazy. So if I was to put it on somebody like a Taraji the Frog, it'd be good, right?
Anyone, if you're running Affinity Clan Boss and you were running a survivability style team, traditional, it's the Faultless Defense, the shield one there. You basically have reduction on any subsequent hit, multi-hits. And because the clan boss hits 4 times, each hit basically is getting reduced by 35% multiplicative. So it's like, you know, say like I was taking 10,000 damage, multiply it by 35% on each hit of the remaining damage. You end up taking, I think when I worked out, it was about 46% less damage on the AoE 2 on Affinity specifically. It's actually really, really strong. It's up there with ally protection.
That is nuts. For it to be a rare blessing as well, that's actually crazy. Yeah.
It's actually shocking how many rares are better than epics, and then how many legendaries are way better than anything else when it comes to blessings.
Yeah. But all right, who we got next for your underrated champions?
So keeping in tune with big damage deal hitters, this one is my OG favorite. Hell Hades always winds me up about this champion. We're going to look at Whisper.
Okay.
She was on Amazon Prime. Obviously, Amazon Prime is out now. If you haven't got it, you can get yourself a free Kunoichi. I never know how to say it.
Yeah, I think it's Kunoichi. Yeah.
Kunoichi, there you go. I mean, I'll butcher it 101 times. Whisper was the OG kind of, one of the OG ones, like alongside Vala, I think it was, from the original Amazon Prime back in like 2019 now. It's a long time ago. But she is kind of like a machine for killing bosses. She has like this passive, which she gets an extra turn. She has a chance to on hitting bosses. So you put her with like a Relentless set, and you basically go extra turn, extra turn. The A3 gives her an extra turn when there's decreased defense and weaken out. But what I actually like about her more than anything, I think she's better than Faceless for Faction Wars.
Really?
Specifically. Damn. Because of the A2. If there's a weaken out, she ignores 100% defense. Ooh. But she also gives herself increased attack and increased crit rate. And she can apply the weaken on an A1. The only thing she cannot do is apply the decreased defense. So to get the extra turn, you need to bring a decreased defense champion. But for Clan Boss, that's not a problem, right? You basically bring in all your damage in one champion. Now, her only problem is because it's extra turns, you kind of struggle to fit her into speed turns because a lot of block damage teams don't like Relentless. They don't like Cycle of Magic. But if you can get her in a team I've seen this champion hit 40 million. I've seen it go absolutely insane. Extra turn after extra turn. It's really fun to just kind of go, oh, have another extra turn. I'll go again and another extra turn. It's actually, she has got a bit of a competitor now from the Silver Watchers. Mistrider Dithey. He's the other one that I think is going to be extra turn after extra turn. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
He's he's another one interesting, but she hits extremely, extremely hard. The A2 more than anything else. In Faction Wars, you basically pick a Valkyrie, you hopefully have weakened it, and then you just take it out 100%. It's on a 3-turn cooldown as well. It's pretty strong.
That's great. I think the first time that I've seen her like really shining, I think I've seen Mad Kappa do a video recently with Whisper, and I was like, holy crap, this chick can smack. But the first thing that I noticed is, remember when they changed her picture? She never used to look like this. A portrait.
Was she one of them?
Yeah, she was one
of them. I know they've done a few, right?
Yeah.
They've done one of the Barbarians, used to look like Rihanna. They had to change that one out as well.
Yeah, they're going to get some lawsuits coming their way.
But she is, again, what's fun about her is if you can get her to work, it's actually so enjoyable watching her just keep going again and again. And because she gives herself her own buffs, she's kind of self-sustaining on the A2. She can give herself her own damage buffs, and champions that can do that are always better than champions that can't. Because they're less dependent on someone like Seeker to make sure they're hitting the damage numbers. But yeah, that's my number 3, Whisper. She's still the queen of doing damage for me in that faction for Faction Wars and for Clan Boss.
Faceless is just sitting there like, damn you, get out of here.
Yeah, he's done. He needs to unleash his face for him to be relevant anymore.
Yeah. All right, so next up for me is going to be another OG, and it's somebody that I'd say is still underrated as I don't see him being used at the moment, and that's Occult Brawler, the big old belly button. And he's just got such a simple kit, but it's effective for, I'd say, 99% of the player base. Because if you're looking for a poisoner, he literally places a poison just by taking a turn. And I think that's amazing. Yeah, he's got a poison on the A1, poison here. And if that's all you're looking for in your specific clan boss team, because you've got drop defense and weaken covered, you've got your ally protections and all that stuff covered, then this dude just comes in as your 5th row and just absolutely shreds and keeps that poison up consistently. So
you often turn the A2 off as well, I think, right? You'd never use the A2.
I guess it comes down to what composition you're using, because if you get too much poisons on yourself, the A2 is a way to kind of strip that all off again.
Yeah, so, it's the extra turn, I think, is the problem with it. You've got to be careful of, right, for some speed turns. It's always interesting for me that we always have this debate of like Frozen Banshee versus Occult Brawler.
Yeah.
And people always forget that Frozen Banshee is stronger, but she requires the counterattack. And as soon as we only have a handful of AoE counterattack champions, you end up, as you said, like Occult Brawler just works. He's always going to outperform Frozen Banshee if she hasn't got counterattack. If she's got counterattack, he probably loses out.
Yeah.
But he's still an OG for a poisoner, considering we've had, loads of different poisoners out. We've had some Doom Tower epic poisoners. He still can probably pump out more poisons than most of those epic champions that we've had.
I think what else makes him really good is the book values, because you don't need books for the passive. If you get lucky and just get 4 books on the A1, you can just avoid this completely and block it off. So in terms of book values,
you wouldn't even need to. Okay, when would you? You get what, 10%?
10% extra. You don't even really need to book him if you didn't want to, but if you wanted to, then you could. But I guess just for the damage could help out a little bit with the 10%.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like champions, thinking like in the early game, or the mid game, being able to literally just take him to 6-star, put him in the team, it's rare to get that, right? Let's face it, any champion that we have come out today is like, okay, well, you got like, 75% chance, you're going to need 25% from the books, and you're probably going to need the cooldown. So to make a champion viable, you normally need to book them. Where it's nice to actually still see here, he just works, right? You just put him in a team and off he goes.
Yeah, it's like he's in all of the adverts. I think they should give him a little buff on the A2 and just give him a sensitivity. Then you become like super duper S tier.
I'd love his passive to be 100%.
Yeah.
I just suppose that's a bit greedy, right?
Maybe even
I'd rather it be like,
even if they wanted to, even add a bookable thing to make it 100%. So if you didn't want it, then 70%. But
yeah, I'd rather it be like places 5% poison at the start of every turn, and then has a 50% chance of placing an extra 5% poison for 4 turns at the start. Just so that you get a little bit more, because 2.5% is a bit 2019. I think it needs a bit of a boost.
Bit of a tweak. All right, who we got next on your list?
So next up, we have one that is probably never on anyone's top 10 list.
Okay.
But actually, whenever I'm thinking about different crazy new tunes to come up with, which I do on a regular basis, I always lean back to this champion, and it is Klost Clod Beast Feeder. And you have to be very careful the way you say the
Yes.
second name.
Breastfeeder.
Hell Hades is a pain in the backside because he says things really badly and he gets in all of our minds. So Beast Feeder. The reason why this champion is actually really good because it's one of the few champions that has an increased crit rate, a decreased crit rate, get it the right way, a decreased crit rate debuff, which is actually incredibly powerful if you are doing any sort of traditional team because often your team will fail because someone gets a random crit or someone gets hit really hard for no reason other than it being crit. Well, decreased crit rate debuff will stop the crits happening. And the other thing she has is increased speed with increased accuracy. So you can really reduce your stat benefit bonuses down. And you also have some good shielding and self-healing as well. The passive is actually quite powerful. It'll keep your team healed up, especially the stun target more than anything else, because it's a single target heal on the lowest HP on a passive. So you end up with this kind of like solid, decent carry champion. I often like kind of look at it a little bit when I'm leaning away from Lydia, just because you get the increased speed, you get a few buffs, you get some healing. The debuff is quite good. And it was something I was originally looking at before the Infinity Clan boss came out. I was looking at a concept of, well, what if we just keep extending Brogni's shield and growing it? Clod Beast Feeder was in my list there. Not a champion I really use an awful lot, but a good utility champion, especially in the faction as well, when it used to struggle for champions. It used to be a really good, strong carry.
Yeah, I actually, when I first built him, I thought like a straight out swap for Lydia because there wasn't a ton of champions and still isn't that have increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown in an ability like that. So it's really hard to get this and to speed tune specific teams such as like the Underpriest Brogni Lydia teams and stuff like that. It's really hard to find replacements if you don't have a Lydia. Now, you're not going to get the same benefits as a Lydia of like drop defense, weaken, strengthens, all this stuff. But just being able to make the comp work before you get a champion like her, sometimes it's really nice to just put them in. But I think the only thing I would change about this champion is I would have loved the shield to be in this same skill here. So then you're able to extend it with a Brogni more easier. Because right now, it's with it being on 2 different skills, I found it really hard to like swap out a Tarogi the Frog, for instance, in a team like that.
Yeah.
So,
the nice thing you can with it being on a 2 different skill is if you're running someone like a Taragi the Frog or a Brogni, well, that's a 2-turn shield.
Yeah.
So often you want a shield for your stun target. So you can kind of go almost like a rotation of a sort of, if you're on a 1-1, A3, A1, A2, and then the shield is back up in time. Or you can go on a different ratio if you can get it in the right, obviously because it's a 3-turn cooldown on a 2-1 is a bit awkward unless you're going 3-1.
Yeah.
But you've got flexibilities to actually reposition a secondary shield or extend the first one. That's always like the challenge. Am I extending? Am I replacing? So it's kind of like you've got a good flexibility in here. But again, if you take her outside a clan boss as well, like early game, whenever you're looking at traditional teams, it's always like, I don't want to just build a champion that's just going to like do stage 21 faction wars. That's not what you really want. You want to build champions that can do clan boss and other things. And just the overall kit is pretty stable carry for me. I quite enjoy a lot of people don't rate decreased crit rate as a debuff. I think it's actually underrated quite heavily because all PvE content is 15% crit rate. If you can eliminate crits, considering the enemies have really high base stats, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And even I'd say for Ironshrid's Fortress, having that increased accuracy with the increased speed. So if you guys are struggling to reach that 250 threshold for stage 15 and then struggling to get your accuracy at the same time, Clod Beast Feeder just comes through and it's like, yo, we got your increased accuracy there. So he's really versatile. I like him. All right. Next up on my list is going to be Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter. That's what I like to call him. Where is he?
Oh, the rat.
Where's the rat, man? I forgot which faction he's in.
Rat-a-tat. He's a lizardman, isn't he?
Oh my god, I don't even know. Wait, why is he not in Lizardman? What's going on? I think he's
a Skinwalker. Oh, he's a Skinwalker, yeah.
So, yeah. Mr. Harry Potter, he looks very, very weird, but he's actually a really strong champion that I think a lot of people sleep on because he's got Poison on the A1, the big version, which is nice. Granted, it's only on a 70% chance, but he also has an AoE, which has a chance of placing Leech. Now, Leech, correct me if I'm wrong, gives you 18% healing from the damage inflicted. I think that's the number.
It might be more.
Is it more than
18?
it
could be 18. Lifesteal's what, 30?
Yeah.
I can't remember. That's a good point, actually. I always just think Leech heals here. Once you've got it's fine, right? It doesn't really matter because of War Master.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it does scale off like War Master Mastery, so I'll throw it up from hh.com anyway, we see the stats. But yeah, 18% is what I think it's at, and that is really substantial once you have those masteries on, because your champions pretty much go up to full without lifesteal sets. And then you've got the weaken and the increased attack if the weaken is placed. So if you've only got a drop defense champion and you're looking for a weakened one, he brings that in as well. So he's bringing in 3 really crucial things for a traditional team, in my opinion. And he also does a damage increase against targets under poison debuffs. So it's not as strong as, let's just say, a Bad Alcazar where all allies deal more damage, but he deals it from himself, which is, I think, is still really nice as a DPS.
But when you pair him with Bad Alcazar,
oh yeah, would that be...
I actually have some math in the arena calculator that the sort of the arena rankings that I have. He's actually a really strong nuker in the arena if you can get the poisons in. Now the problem is obviously
getting the poisons
you need
in.
to commit another poisoner.
Yeah.
But the passives probably stack, right? So if Bad L's giving him 1.2, he's going to get 1.2. Essentially, he's going to get like quite a big damage stimulus if you run him with Bad L. It's just whether you can like support him with Bad L.
Yeah.
I suppose in a clan boss scenario where you want a cleanser,
yeah,
he does, you know, hit quite hard.
Yeah, I'll be interested.
The only
to
thing
see
being,
that.
I think he's squishy, right? I think he's got really low base defense.
Yeah, but that you can see there. He's got 1.
Oh, actually, he's better than I thought.
It's not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, when I first came out, I was like, oh, we could run like a poison and nuke comp, and my dreams were crushed by the arena meta. See, I always think he reminds me of the Skaven from Warhammer.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
He looks a bit like that.
Yeah.
He looks like a really angry kind of Skaven Harry Potter hybrid mix. But Scabbers, I agree. He's actually on the A1. That's one of the highest odds for placing poisons on an A1.
Is it really? So,
not many. Yeah. Mithral is probably the best A1 poisoner in the game. Obviously, people will say Frozen Banshee. Well, Frozen Banshee needs to have sensitivity. Mithrala will just place the poisons on an A1 100% of the time. She's actually really strong for it if you've got a single target. But a 70% chance for a single poison is actually quite high on an A1 ability. So you get a good regular poisoner that doesn't require any weird conditions. He just has a 30% chance not to. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think even if you want to bring him to extra utility, even I know a lot of people struggle in Skinwalker Faction Wars, having an AoE leech instead of a single target is really strong if you don't have healers such as Steel Skull. So
100%.
Yeah,
and leech, really obviously, as you say, you can drop lifesteal. Once you can drop lifesteal, you've got options such as Stalwart. You've got the new Defiant set, which is better than Stalwart, coming out soon.
Yeah.
You can flex it with Immortal sets or regen sets. Your options kind of go a lot more wider, or you can just run builds without sets. If you've just got lots of good individual pieces in the early to mid game, you're struggling. Leech is kind of like that linchpin to unlock your flexibility of your builds for clan boss. Otherwise, you're kind of forced into lifesteal, and then you're forced into farming dragon for a long time.
Yeah. But all right. Next up, who we got?
Next up for me, he is a forgotten fusion.
Okay.
We weren't really sure he was going to be very good, but the moment I saw him, I thought actually he could be really cool in my old man-eater team with Lydia, and that is Roric Wormbane. Roric Wormbane is a unique champion because he's one of the few, I think he's the only champion that will do a different ability. I think there's one Shadowkin that does a different ability, but I think it's the A1 anyway. He uses his A3 for counterattacks, and his A3 ignores 50% of the target's defense. It's actually extremely strong. You can't stop him from using it either with any debuff. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. But what's actually quite cool about Clan Boss with him, he's got an A1 ability that's meant to stun champions, but obviously you cannot stun the Clan Boss. But he has an other option. If he doesn't stun, he instead increases his turn meter. Now, that's 15% twice. So he's getting a 30% self-buff A1, which means you can run him in a 3-1 rotation with actually quite a lot less speed than you would imagine. I had him running in a Lydia Maneater team where he would essentially force the team into more of 3-1 ratio and force the Maneaters into a 5-3 kind of ratio. So you could drop the Painkeeper. Normally with Maneaters, you need kind of like the Painkeeper and a double Maneater setup. But yeah, that's what I built him with. His results were good, but my gear back then wasn't as good. I'm kind of tempted to kind of pull him out of the vault. I just got a 5-star Maneater soul, which I traded from a 6-star Tilia, which is a painful trade from a tier 3 shard. But things we do for content. But I might bring him out into a Maneater team and kind of see with a kind of a counter attack, maybe a Valkyrie or something.
Yeah.
See what we can do. I don't know. We'll kind of throw it out, but I think you can run him in a 3-1 ratio, and actually because of his A3 counterattacks, he hits really hard and he can really pump some damage out. You probably disable the A2. Yeah. He's actually quite good outside of that as well. You get a good kind of like turn meter control. You can get some stuns. It's just a little bit niche otherwise.
I'm so happy that you brought him up. I was saying to you before we did the video, because I'm actually a huge supporter of this dude, and every time I mention this guy, people bash me for it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're like, what are you like? What's everybody seeing that's so bad? Like, he's immune to stun debuffs, deals 15% more damage to bosses, and receives 15% less damage from them. He's got that thing where he ignores 50% of the target's defense whenever he's counterattacking. And then he's got the increase of turn meter, as you're saying, great for dropping down his speed and speed tunings. I think
It's actually
it's crazy.
one thing about that A1 as well. There are some speed tunes where if you can get an A1 like a ninja boost, there's a couple of other champions. Like I built it once with Sniper, an uncommon champion. If you can get them to inject enough turn meter into their bar at the right time, you can force the clan boss into a different division, and then all of a sudden, a lot of different speeds change.
Yeah.
Essentially, you can get an extra turn on Seeker, which means he can fill the turn meter, which means everyone else can take a turn. And the sort of speeds you needed before to hit like a 2-1 or a 3-1 all of a sudden become a lot less because of his one ability. It's the sort of nuances of speed tune and a bit of the science behind it that one champion can actually make a huge difference to the entire champion list of speeds.
That's interesting.
He's really, really strong, hits really hard. Was a fusion. Okay, he's not for everyone. He is Spirit Affinity, which is a bit annoying if you hit the wrong affinities. Trying to like match him up with better champions is a bit frustrating. Obviously, people are using things like Jin Toro, things like Ninja in the clan boss. They're magic, so when you have Spirit, it means that you're always having a negative affinity problem somewhere.
Yeah.
So it is a bit frustrating, but he looks cool. He also really like, I don't know how he manages to switch between his massive hammer and his sort of crossbow, but he does it quite well.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I used him is when Hydra Boss first came out, and I was like, it was basically I was trying out the Inquisitor Shmel for the first ever time. And because you're always counterattacking the Head of Torment.
I remember that video.
Yeah, it's like I was just like, it kind of like loads of comps now everyone uses Inquisitor Shmel, but back then I think I was one of the first ones to actually showcase that mechanic. But
I do remember you actually made me think about pulling him back out of the vault.
Yeah,
because obviously I'd built a different team over a while, because you evolve and you build different ways things, and I was like, oh, Roric, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? I was like you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, you want to use Salad and you want to use these champions, they're really cool. It's like, well, hang on, Roric can do it just as good. Yeah. And then they went and bug fixed Hydra and kind of
they ruined your
dreams.
But all right, next up on my list, we're going to head straight into the Shadowkin. We've got to get the mask out real quick for this one. It's not Genzin, by the way.
It's not Genzin.
It's not Genzin. It's not Nagorio. It's actually Hatatsu. Now,
yeah, you need a new mask for that.
We just got to flatten
it. Need the full one.
Yeah. But in terms of Hatatsu, very similar thing to Rearguard Sergeant, where decreased attack is on a 3-turn cooldown, so they balance really well together because if you put it on different rotations, it's pretty much going to be up all of the time. But the main thing is he's got an A1 leech. Now, it's on a smaller chance. What is that? Was it 50, 60% chance? But considering it's on an A1, this is out pretty much most of the time. And he's also got an increased defense and continuous heal on a 3-turn cooldown, with removing one random debuff from this champion at the start of each turn, and will remove stun, sleep, freeze, fear, true fear, and all this stuff before other debuffs. Now, as the clan boss kind of works, very similar to like a Skull Crusher, you will actually lose your cooldown, even though he's immune to the stun. But it's still there if you want to run it on a 4-3. But even if you've got a Cleanser, having an increased defense, a decreased attack, and a leech is actually really strong for clan boss. So, and he's got the defensive aura by 25%.
Does he actually lose it? Because he should cleanse that before the start of his turn.
I thought that
he
as
still
well,
loses the cooldown, does he?
Do you know with how Skull Crusher is when he gets stunned and you kind of have to wait that first 3 turns?
Oh, yeah, right.
It's got that similar effect where it is really annoying, because I got really excited when he first came out. I was like, this is like one of the first champions that we can just rely on a stun target, and it's always, but it doesn't work like that, and then you lose your increased defense and it all just goes shambles.
So you have to run him at 4-3.
You have to run him at a 4-3 to use that,
Yeah, but I've often thought about using him in different places as well. I think if I didn't have Ninja, I would probably be thinking about using him in the Faction Wars when it first came out, because obviously decreased attack is such a powerful thing to have. You get that increased defense, you get the leech, you get the sustainability, you get the stun, the fear, he can cleanse it. Yeah. He is a bit of a utility kind of support, I guess. Looks really cool. I don't know what happened to his face. He obviously face planted somewhere really badly.
He got hit with a frying pan.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, his passive is what makes him unique. There's not many champions that can do that kind of like cleanse in that ability. I think the other one is maybe like Sanguina can do something similar like that.
Yeah.
But it's good. Like it's one of those champions, and I always like these champions that kind of like everything makes sense, right? He's there to increase your defense, but he's also going to decrease the attack, which is again aligned with reducing the damage your team takes. And then if your team does take damage, hey, I'm going to give you a leech, right? It's all kind of makes sense. It's not weird. It's not like I do one thing and then I do another.
Yeah, and
which is always an awful
I
thing.
like the priority on these debuffs as well. So when you're going into somewhere like the Doom Tower, for instance, and you're looking for like a consistent decreased attack champion and healer, you will actually like ignore all of this stuff. So if someone's trying to put a sleep out like a Kaima or freeze from a Gurgo, it'll kind of follow in this order, and you're pretty much immune to so many debuffs on a free turn cooldown without having to book that. And that will help you get out some heals, decrease attacks, and keep him under control.
He loves a few bucks on his A1 though, doesn't he? That's a bit brutal. That's a brutal one. It's almost like you're playing the bingo game. Can I get the one buck to land on the A3 and then peace out?
Yes. And it never happens as well. That's the worst part.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. How many more is there left? Do you have any more on your list?
Should we do one last one? I have one more champion that I think is someone that recently got buffed.
Okay.
That I think might be relevant to some people's clan boss teams now.
Please say Juliana.
Have you seen Hell Hades' video on Juliana?
I actually think I was shocked.
I was looking at it and I was like, oh, can I fit in Ramiro into a team? And then I looked at Ramiro's kit and I was like, he really brings absolutely nothing for a clan boss team.
Yeah.
And his A3 is not as strong as you think it sounds. So the one that I'm going to be talking about is going to be Delver.
Elva, okay.
A dark elf.
Oh, wait, I thought you said Elva. Wait, who?
Delver, not Elva, Delver. I know it's close.
Oh,
Delver. Epic champion.
Who the heck is that?
Recently buffed.
Oh, Darius, okay.
Recently buffed. Now, what's cool about...
Before you even say this is a champion that whenever I pull her, I don't even make a facial expression. So I need to hear this one.
Really? Yeah. Well, to be honest, she was a champion that was kind of rubbish, useless, right? But what they did is they buffed her up so that actually now she is capable of being a decreased defense and a weakened champion together, which is obviously the holy grail of dealing damage. The only downside is kind of some of it doesn't make sense. So you get the A3. The A3 has a 75% chance of placing decreased defense. But you need accuracy to do that. The only good thing about the A3 is it does it before attacking. So it's affinity friendly, right? It'll place the debuff, then attack. So you can never lose it on a weak hit.
Yeah.
If you've got Poison Cloud out, you can place the debuff, even though it's kind of useless because you're not going to do much damage anyway. But sometimes it can help. The A2 is then a weaken, which will get placed if the target has decreased defense. That debuff can't be resisted. Now, that's the weird thing. Like, well, you need accuracy for the decreased defense, so it doesn't really matter that it can't resist.
I hate it when they do that. They did it with one of the Sylvan Watchers. Who was it? Which one was it? I think it's one of the legendary champions. Was it Roric? Yeah, it's the A2, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this can't be resisted with stealing, but yeah, you need accuracy for decreased attack anyway.
It is true. Yeah. But if all you care about is countering the with it, that's actually really strong, right? Because you don't really care about the decreased attack. You just want to get rid of the continuous heals. So that's actually not so bad in that sense. But what you can do is pair Delver up with another decreased defense champion, which is more reliable. And now you can run a full damage nuker that's got a weakened debuff that doesn't require accuracy. And it's also good to do that way because then you get away with not having heal reduction on the A1 for the clan boss, which we know is kind of pointless. So if you run no accuracy, then bring it like someone like a ninja. Pair it with a ninja, for example, right? Ninja's got an A1 decreased defense. You could pair it with someone like a Tyrell. You compare her with anyone you want who's got a decreased defense. She will then place the weaken without resistance needed and hits. I think the new numbers means that she hits reasonably hard. I have her in kind of like my queue of champions that I'm going to look at potentially putting into a clan boss team to see what kind of numbers we can get out of the champion.
Yeah.
But as a kind of like all-in-one package, there's not many champions in this game that can do decreased defense and weaken in one kit. You know, we have a few like Anax and Fane, which are obviously the ones that people will go to. Then you have the legendaries like Draco. I think it's Lydia.
Yeah. I think there was a dwarf as well. There's that Ragnar Goldgleam, I believe.
Ragnar can do it as well.
Ragnar can do it.
There's actually not that many. I think there's about less than 5 or 10 champions.
Yeah.
And if we're talking accessible, like not legendary champions, obviously the main one people will say, well, everyone gets Lydia for free. Sure. But it's kind of cool to have like weird champions as well, different affinities that can do it to see whether or not they actually can add value. And those are the kind of epic buffs we want to see, right? You bring a champion up to 2022 numbers and they have a place somewhere. But that would be my final kind of unseen OP. I'm not necessarily saying that she is actually OP. I think that she could potentially now walk into some teams that she couldn't before. She could be on like the Fane Anax level if you take out the poisons from the kind of like the calculations.
Yeah, I guess you could just put a toxic set and make up for the slack.
That's how I do it. Yeah. I have a double toxic set in my team.
Yeah.
And everyone else just hits hard, basically, however hard we can get them to hit.
All right. My last one is actually going to be Runkeeper Dasdaq. And
the Runkeeper. Good shout.
this dude is so good. Now, I would say it's really niche because he's got that 10-meter feel, right? And that makes it really, really solid for like those Demiffer teams. And also he's got that cleanse on the A3 to keep you affinity friendly against Spirit, for example. So you've got that full coverage for the stun, and you've also got it for the decreased speed as well. I'll actually leave a video to Deadwood Jedi, who had a great video on that. So if you want to learn how to speed tune Runkeeper Dasdaq into a Demiffer team, he's got a cool one. And also with that leech on the A1. So if you're running a traditional team, and you just want that 10-meter field with increased attack, you want a cleanser and a healer, and you also want a leech debuff, he's just a master healer, and I think he's just so underrated, not just for clan boss, everywhere. I think he's got so much use.
You could use him in arena boosting, right?
Yep. I was thinking the same 25%.
thing. 25%.
Because if you look at his base speed, 105 isn't slow. It's really good.
Yeah, you might not run him as like your lead or fastest champion because, you'd probably run Arbiter, but if you wanted to run like Arbiter into second booster, great. Or if you wanted to run like a non-attack, like a Kaimar lead, then you can run him into Kaimar and you get you increased attack out still. Loads of flexibility, full cleanse, as you said, and there's a lot of healing on that cleanse as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of insane, right? So it means that if you are running a block damage team and you've taken a bit of damage early on, you can get yourself back to full HP pretty quickly. If you're not running Demiffer teams, for example. So 100% when you said it, was like, yes, he is like the everyone goes to like Seeker and Deacon. They're the kings of turn meter boost, and he is like the next best option. Yeah. Alongside Salad. I think there's some really fun names that they've got, like Runekeeper Dorked or something like that. As one of them, like Ruined My Masha led champion or something like that. They've got the names in the Deadwood Jedi community, so it's really fun.
Yeah. All right. Is there any honorable mentions before we wrap up the list? I've got one in mind, which is a rare. I'll say that one before I let you think for a second. It's actually, because you said Claude Beastfeeder, it actually just sprung to mind. Where's Demon Spawn? There we go. It's actually Diabolis, the farmable champion. Now, with Diabolis, it's crazy how many people underlook this champion. First of all, 110 base speed.
Crazy, right?
If you want to use it in PvP, she's got a budget Deacon Armstrong effect by filling and decreasing turn meter. But she's got that increased speed on a free turn cooldown for a rare champion that's farmable. And I think that is bonkers. Now, I did speed turn it into a clan boss team, and I will say the damage is not there because you've only got a single target A1. But technically, to make a team work, to go to those 2-to-1 speeds, for example, a rare champion is out there for you guys to speed tune, and I think that's pretty cool, and I like it.
Yeah, she's the rare Lysandra. It's the best way to look at her. Really crazy base speed. Yeah. Like 110 for a rare is bonkers. I think probably the top 1, 2, 3. I think off the top of my head. And as you say, you get like a Deacon kind of Lysandra effect in the A3. You get the increased speed buff, which is very important, but she won't hit very hard.
Yeah.
No.
The good thing is, though, that it is a hit. Like, if this was just increased speed, it could have been worse. But even for secret rooms,
Master, right?
Even secret rooms and all of that stuff, I use her all the time in those rare ones, and she's a huge carry. So, so did you have an honorable mention there?
So there's some new champions that obviously we haven't had a chance to test yet, and one of them is really there's two of them that I'm really excited for clan boss. One of them is going to be White Dryad Nia, which I will be pulling the rest of my voids for before the end of the night.
A Demon Lord?
Yes, for clan boss.
Okay, so I was actually going to ask you, who is your favorite champion from the Sylvan Watchers? Is it her or is it a legendary?
White Dryad Nia.
Even me, because I did a video on her for Hydra, right? And she blew me away. Like, she literally has Chris A1 for an epic champion. And that alone is nuts. And then, so how is you going to use this for clan boss? Because I'm interested in this.
So the A1 should target the leader in a block damage setting, right? It's a bit more tricky if you're going to run traditional, because I think if the HP pool's low, or if there's debuffs, then she kind of prioritizes differently. Yeah. But anytime you ever see like a single target ability, 9 times out of 10 it'll target the team order. It'll go leader, right? So if she's in the lead, it'll go position 2, and vice versa. So in my head, I'm throwing ideas out. Well, what if I just forget the auras, run my Seeker in the lead? Yeah. What if I reset my Seeker every 3 turns so that he can go and do an extra A2? What if we run Deacon in that position and reset his abilities? What if we run an increased speed champion? Cool. What if I run my Jin Toro in the lead and I can get more A3s getting back?
Yeah.
1 A3 for my Jin Toro is about 1.5 million damage. What kind of crazy things can I do? The other thing about her, even though she is she leans towards a traditional team because of the A3, it's an ally protection, right? She actually, you don't need that ability. You can turn it off. So you can just abuse the A2. The A2 also can reset Yumiko. and Yumiko can reset White Dryad Nia. Now, if I had a Yumiko, I'd be building some horrific team in the arena with just like, you know, Nia, Necret, Yumiko. Good luck taking a turn. But the other thing actually that is totally underrated about her is her passive.
Yeah.
Her passive is insane because you can put a bolster set on her. So you get a big shield. She's got a really big base HP. Every time she takes a turn, everyone gets 20% of a bolster heal. Every time, you know, you put Shadow Heal Mastery on her. Anytime she gets a heal, everyone gets some healing. She's going to be like that Cardiel A1 that is permanently, constantly healing your team alongside an AoE decreased speed, alongside a single target renegade. Like, I think this champion is basically a legendary champion, to be honest. But I'm excited about Clan Boss because I think it opens the possibilities to run some really interesting, creative, sort of potentially 4-1 teams. Potentially.
I will say, like, I did playtest it a lot. You might find it a bit interesting. When I was playtesting it, the way that it actually works is, like, it works on the lead position, but if somebody else has less HP, it doesn't work like that. So it will get really tricky up until that point where everybody's equal. So if you're running like a man-eater team and you know that no one's healing, then I could see the potential. But if you're running, or even like a block damage team and you've got it...
You need a block damage team for it. So you've got two options. It's traditional block damage. I don't think it works with man-eater unkillable because, as you say, it's going to go, oh, champion 1 is like dying more than someone else. I'm going to go the thing and it'll break your speed turn, right?
And it also messes up with debuffs. So even if everyone's full HP, let's just say somebody gets a 3% resisted, there's that chance that the lead position won't be targeted for the stun because somebody else has a poison. And she'll be like, oh, let me go. So it will be tricky. You need like a neutral
setting. Yeah. It's one of those things that potentially it could break metas.
Yeah.
But also could be totally useless, right? So it's like, but for like manual fights like Hydra, like you said, right? You basically can pick whoever you want. Oh no, I'm about to lose all my buffs. I need to provoke.
Yeah.
Reset Bivold. Oh no, the enemy is just like taking all my buffs. Okay, reset my buff strip. You know, I need to kill this head really quickly. Reset my enemy max HP. Like the value of the thing what people, I think people say, oh, but isn't it just a renegade single target? It's like, yes, but renegade's a 5-turn cooldown.
Yeah.
You know, Painkeeper, I think is a 4-turn cooldown. I think Kaima's a 6-turn cooldown. Yumiko's a 5-turn cooldown. This is the first one that's actually a 3-turn cooldown, 2-turn reduction. Really low cooldown, really good uptime. So White Dryad Nia is like my favorite champion of the faction. The other one I was going to say, without going into too much details, Ruella.
For Clan Boss.
For Clan Boss.
Oh, okay.
Because you get decreased defense and weaken. And the cool thing about that ability is not like the it's not like Cantor the Cyclones A2, where it's like one of these debuffs will be picked at random and you can pick the same debuff. Every single hit has a chance to place every single debuff. So you effectively have like 9 opportunities to land one of the debuffs.
Yeah.
Which is really quite strong. It means that those debuffs are up all the time, even though it's a 4-turn cooldown, because it's always going to be on. But you get a turn meter fill on the A3. It's 3 triple hitters or 2 triple hitters, so you can run Giant Slayer. And her damage numbers are really high, but most importantly, she has 112 base speed.
That is nuts.
You want to speed tune this champion really fast? You haven't got a problem. Haven't got a problem
That's
at all.
That's going to pop off. With Giant Slayer, I can see the craziness from that.
Yeah. It's also the crit rate buff you give on everyone. Yeah. So you're giving less stats for your team. So on a 3-turn cooldown, everyone gets 20%. So you get some turn meter fill in. She steals turn meter, which you can't do in Clan Boss, which you can in other places. And you also get, I think, an Axie Aura as well. But you get in the main debuffs you need to deal damage. She's going to deal a lot of damage. And you give your team more stats that they don't need in their build. So you're going to deal more damage. So she may not necessarily outrank people that deal lots of damage, but she'll make teams outrank teams with that one champion potentially, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in that one now. I didn't think about that.
She's the non-flashiest one. She doesn't look like cool like White Dryad and
do you know what?
The Druiden.
I'm not going for the guaranteed event, right? Let's see if we can get it on 2 shots. Just to wrap up the video.
Like YOLO.
Because I know that I'm on like an epic mercy. I'm like 20-something shards in or something. I don't know. There we go.
Oh,
Runkeeper.
Oh, it's Runkeeper. There you go. I mean, the Dasdaq.
I shouldn't have said his name earlier. It could have been a White Dryad.
I know, you baited yourself.
But all right, guys, that is our list for today for underrated champions for the Clan Boss. If we did miss out your favorite ones, let us know in the comment section below. And thanks so much, Saf, for jumping on today. It's been a blast.
No worries. Thanks for inviting me. It's been cool.
Yeah. But as always, guys, I'll leave all of his channels and stuff in the description below for you to go and drop a subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.